Good evening, everybody. Good evening. As you may all know, the whole festival is dedicated to the city of Santa Barbara, our sister city. And we're partnering with Direct Relief to raise support for the LA communities affected by the fire. When you walked in, you saw that there was a volunteer table. They will be matching our donations up to 100,000 and to double our impact. Please be generous. All the money's going directly to Los Angeles, and we love Los Angeles, and all best wishes to them. A very special thank you to Lexus, our new presenting sponsor. You will see Lexus vehicles during the festival in front of the Film Center. I have been driven around town in the rain in this gorgeous Lexus SUV. Pretty smooth. I like it. I prefer my Porsche, but Lexus is pretty nice. Not a bad thing. Thank you to, oh my God, oops. Thank you to the generous support of Nora McNeely Hurley, Michael Hurley, and the Magnitude Fund. And I have been remiss to thank our Spartacus Circle. Spartacus Circle is a group of very supportive philanthropists in town that have pledged a 5-year donation to the film festival. Thank you to the Spartacus Circle for their tremendous support, to the board of directors of the film festival. And that's it. You guys are in for quite a ride tonight. I love these two actors, Adrien Brody and Guy Pearce. And yes! Academy Award nominated this year for their performance in The Brutalist. And please give a warm welcome to a dear friend of the film festival, Pete Hammond, who's been doing this for 23 years. He's the chief film critic for Deadline and awards columnist. Please give a warm welcome to Pete Hammond. Pedro!
Okay. Thank you, Roger. I cannot believe that. Somebody asked me, how long have you been doing this? I just found out, 23 years. And it's so much fun to come here in the pouring rain in Santa Barbara. I remember, I don't know how many of you were here the year I did Viggo Mortensen. Anybody? That was like a monsoon. Viggo couldn't even get down 101. They had to stop and go find some guy that gave him a plane to fly in here. He was determined to keep this going. They were canceling everything, and he got here, and we were only 45 minutes late starting that show. That's the Santa Barbara spirit, and such a great festival. So I'm so happy to be back, and I'm so happy tonight for this event, the Vanguard Award, and both of these journeyman actors, I call them. These are actors to the truest sense of the word. They go from role to role. It's always different. So one of them started his show business career as a very young magician at birthday parties for kids and called himself the Amazing Adrien. The other, from Australia, was a competitive bodybuilder, and at a very young age won Australia's Junior Mr. Victoria in that. Well, we all have to start somewhere. And now, a few years later, both of them are nominated this year for Academy Awards for The Brutalist. Yeah. How many have seen The Brutalist? Just... All right. When you consider some of the movies collectively they've been in, I'm just going to name the ones that were nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. The Pianist, The King's Speech, L.A. Confidential, The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Thin Red Line, The Hurt Locker, and so many more movies that we're going to be talking about tonight at this show. So here is a look at how far the amazing Adrien and junior Mr. Victoria have come. Please welcome Adrien, Brody, and Guy Pearce.
Oh, thank you. That's so cute. I love this place.
He's not kidding. He was just backstage going on a high from doing the press line with all of the kids from the high schools here in Santa Barbara.
I mean, I just want to say, I've been doing this a very long time. I have never experienced a press line like that. And these kids are amazing. No, they are so thoughtful and connected and professional. And I realized that I've been here for the pianists, which was so long ago that they weren't even born yet. and the press line got progressively younger and younger. And then I was talking to kids in middle school, and the last question was, can you tell us about your career? And I said, sure, what would you like to know? And they were like, I don't know anything, because they never knew it. They'd never seen a movie of mine. But it was so cute that I said, well, on this movie, you're a little young for this one. And anyhow, it's so lovely to be here. Great to be here with you all. Thank you, Pete, for this discussion.
And thank you from me as well. It really is a pleasure, and I concur. That was one of the most special experiences speaking to you lovely students out there. No jaded questions whatsoever. It was delightful, so thank you.
You're going to leave all the jaded questions to me. Now, congratulations, both of you, on the Oscar nominations and everything else. Golden Globe winner, Critics' Choice winner. And this is astounding to me when you looked at that, what you just saw there, and when you saw all that work from both of them. But Guy Pearce, I interviewed him not too long ago, and I said, I'm going down this, and I just can't believe you've never been, this was before the Oscar nominations, never been nominated for an Oscar. Never, and it just, I would think at that point it would be 5 of these pictures that would have brought that to you.
Well, it took you saying that for me to get a nomination, so thank you. I appreciate it.
But it's like, how does it feel, though, now in this career?
Oh, it's lovely. It's very exciting. I mean, I've just come back from Australia. I was there for a couple of weeks, and I think one of the nicest things is that everyone in Australia is really excited for me as well. So that sort of makes it even more exciting. So it's delightful. Yeah, it's great.
And so well deserved. And of course, Adrien, when he said he's been in this a long time and he mentioned The Pianist, that's when I first met you. We went around, I would meet well before the Oscar nominations in theaters with 100 seats and things where you and your co-star Thomas were doing Q&As and things. And, you know, it's just a crazy.
Not much has changed. It was still out there. We have a Q&A tomorrow.
It's the same thing. But, of course, you went on to win the Academy Award for Best Actor for The Pianist.
Deservedly so.
Deservedly so. Against 4 heavyweights who had all won Oscars before. I remember that so well. Nicolas Cage, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jack Nicholson, and Michael Caine. And you came in and are still holding the record, the youngest ever to win the Best Actor Oscar.
I admire those men so much and the work that they've contributed to this field, and it was such a privilege. I can't tell you, it was such a privilege to be there with them and even in conversation with them, and to I'm still very moved by it, and I don't take any of it for granted, and I'm so grateful to be here yet again with another film that is being met with such respect and for all of us. And yeah, it's very meaningful. I'm really grateful for this moment. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And I've seen you around town, and you say really kind of poignant things like, you know, I never thought maybe I'd get to this point again with another role that's going to bring me to this point. Is that true? You never thought maybe?
Of course. I mean, I think... so I've been acting since I was 12. So it's been almost 4...
Doing magic before?
Well, I was a professional magician. Why is that funny? I don't even know why that's funny, but I thought I was a professional. I was a kid, but $50, I'd do your birthday party. I was cheap. I was a cheap professional magician. But you know, I've gained a lot of perspective in all these years, and you know, yeah, I know that in spite of receiving accolades and having had tremendous peaks in a career, that it is very challenging to find something of great meaning, and it's not just to be. It's a wonderful thing that we're in the midst of all of this and receiving recognition from our peers in our industry, but to connect with audiences. And the beauty of these moments when a movie is a recipient of these accolades or our work is being recognized is it creates awareness for an independent film. And that reaches a greater audience. And that's what we strive to do. And that's what you're really up against in the independent film space. We don't have the resources to heavily promote those films, and from when they do catch, and when people share their being moved by them, it just is such a wonderful thing, and I can't tell you how gratifying it is, that sense of communion with people, and that's what it's about.
Guy, what was this working experience like? This is the first time you have worked together, and it's so two extraordinary performances, really very different kinds of characters here. What was it like for you working with Adrien for the first time?
It was a little intimidating, to be honest. I had I had admired Adrien for a long time, and you know, I think I've always said one of the best things about being an actor is working with better actors, is working with people who you really admire. But what can happen? There can be that sort of little moment where your heart skips a beat and you're standing in front of somebody who you think is wonderful, and you forget your line. So. You know, I had a few moments where I had to
didn't do.
Well, I had to remind myself to speak. So, you know, of course, we got on very well very quickly, and we both knew that we were working on a really wonderful piece, and we're both very inspired by Brody, our incredible writer director, who is very relaxed. You know, he certainly was with us, and he really offered a sort of a sense on set that we had all the time in the world, that we had all the freedom in the world to explore what it was we were doing. And I think ultimately it's not that, you know, that either of us were looking to improvise and go off on tangents, etc. It was pretty clear that we came to this set understanding this really incredible script. So for us, it was just about getting to the heart of each moment and finding the most truthful way of expressing it, etc. And I think, Adrien and I have a pretty mutual respect, and it's great when you I don't want to say go into battle, but when you hit the floor together and there is a mutual understanding and a mutual respect, and you know you've got each other's backs, it's really inspiring. So it was terrific for me personally. It really was, and of course it was a fascinating dynamic between the two characters. So it was generally really interesting work to do anyway. So it was a very special experience, and then of course it was just capped off by the fact that we watched this finished film at the Venice Film Festival last year, and were really stunned at how good a film it is. So I think we've all done pretty good work, and all thanks to Brody as well, so for bringing us on board. And as Adrien says, to make a film that's so low budget and such an independent piece of work, but has such sort of grandeur and status and sort of delves into such big themes that we are all understanding of in the process is very exciting. It really is. It's why we do what we do.
And this little movie made in 33 days for less than $10 million, has 10 Academy Award nominations, which is amazing. And it is not your first rodeo, even though it's your first nomination. You have picked them really well because you've been in several movies that have been Best Picture winners. The Hurt Locker, The King's Speech. Did you go to the Oscars? You know, now when you go, when you win Best Picture, everyone in the audience goes on stage. Or it seems like that.
I felt nervous when the Hurt Locker won because I'm only in it for about 3 seconds, and I remember Chris, my fantastic agent, saying to me, "If it wins Best Picture, you should get up there as well." And I thought, I suppose I should, but I feel slightly embarrassed because I'm only there for a minute, you know. But I was part of it, so it was nice to get up with it. Yeah,
it's cool. Well, speaking of Best Picture winners, we're going to show our first 2 clips here, and they happen to star Adrien Brody. One is a little picture directed by Roman Polanski called "The Pianist," which is your Oscar-winning performance as Vladislav Spilman. And we are going to see, I can't pronounce anything.
It's Vladislav, but they actually said Vladislav, but I didn't even say that. It's Vladislav Spielman.
That's hilarious. And then, wait till you hear this one. The other clip we're showing, Dmitry Deskov und Taxis, is that it?
It's close too. Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
The Grand Budapest
Deskov von Taxis.
Ah, von Taxis. You do such great accents.
I was a magician. I was a clown, but it's easy.
Don't worry, I'm getting to Mr. Junior Victoria, too. Okay, let's take a look. Here it is, The Pianist in the Grand Budapest Hotel, starring Adrien Brody. Take a look.
I'm so confused. You can't kind of play those two back to back. I'm really, my emotions
welcome to the Santa Barbara Film Festival. Yeah, that's what we do. You know, we give you the whole scope of your thespian abilities here. It's so funny though that scene, and that of course is Ralph Fiennes, who is nominated opposite you. So I think it would be so cool if the Oscar producers are out in the audience to have you restage that on the Academy Awards.
You're not getting it.
Well, we've seen that before on the Oscars recently.
He's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's right. We won't do that.
Yeah, you're going to have to top that somehow.
Let me ask you about the piano. I'm going to go back to The Pianist because that's what I do. So, Roman Polanski, genius director, one of the best ever, gave you this role. Did you know at the time this was going to be the one that in a career-making role here?
I just knew that it was one of the most meaningful opportunities that I had been presented with, and that it was an opportunity to, you know, The Pianist is based on the memoirs of Vladislav Spielman, and also Roman is a Holocaust survivor, and it was very much, it was a tremendous responsibility for me to represent all of that, the time in history, and such tremendous loss for so many. And I just knew the significance of that, and the opportunity to understand things on a level that I hadn't, and I managed to. And I learned to play Chopin. I practiced piano for 4 hours a day. I understood hunger on a level that I never knew, fortunately, and gained respect and understanding for many hardships that many people endure. And it was such a profound experience. And I learned much about film and filmmaking. And yeah, it was life-changing in and of the experience itself prior to anything to come. And I always look back at that. I was 27 when I made that movie. And I'd say I look a bit younger than I did then now, but I always look at that experience as opening a portal into understanding life as an adult, and where I thought I was more mature than I was, and I thought I had a sense of understanding. And it was a very hard movie to make, and it opened up an awareness that I am very grateful for. And interestingly enough, has given me context and understanding to represent the hardships that Laszlo Toth, my character in The Brutalist, is leaving behind. And as he's coming to America, the traumas that linger, and it gave me much opportunity for truth in carrying that and that sense of loss and suffering that unfortunately is pervasive in this world.
And you had to lose quite a bit of weight also on that too, right?
I went down to 129 pounds.
Wow.
I'm 6 feet.
Whoa. Amazing. Well, Wes Anderson lightens things up here. You have worked with him. I don't know. I lost count. There's so many movies. One of my all-time favorites happens to be his animated film, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, which you played Rickety, but yes, great movie.
Part.
But yeah, you know, Darjeeling Limited, French Dispatch, Asteroid City, on and on and on. And this one, the Grand Budapest Hotel, might be his masterpiece, although he's done so much. What is that actor director kind of relationship that you got going with Wes Anderson? He just calls you every time he's got a movie, it seems like.
Me and 50 other actors make a repeat players, but it's very meaningful to be a part of that troupe of actors. They're wonderful people. I've had so many incredible life experiences. We filmed on a moving train in India, and I lived with Wes and Owen Wilson and Jason Schwartzman and Roman Coppola all in a house in India, and I bought a motorcycle there, and just amazing life experiences. And he's such a unique filmmaker. His style. You look at one frame of his movie and you go, "Oh, that's a Wes Anderson movie," and that's really special. And yeah,
very, very cool. Now, Guy, you know, I mentioned at the beginning, I had no idea, even when we talked before, that you were an amateur bodybuilder, and actually an award-winning one. Very impressive. Was that?
It's not really high on the resume.
Well, it's
status.
Leave it to Pete. Bring it.
Bring it to the forefront.
It's at the very beginning, but that is something. Was that something?
Don't ask me to take my shirt off now, okay? Because things have changed.
But how did you go from doing that to an acting career? I mean, what inspired you to change it up? And
well, I was already working in theatre when I was a kid in Australia. So I'd done 10 years of theatre from the age of 8 to 18 anyway. And that really was my first love. That meant so much to me. And it was the bodybuilding thing, the gym thing was sort of this odd kind of turn of events where my mum, this was in the 80s, and my mum used to go to these aerobics classes at this gym. And I can't believe I'm sitting here at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival talking about my mum going to aerobics and me starting a bodybuilding career.
I saw that movie.
Did you? Yeah. Yeah, it's coming out on Netflix soon. And I just would go along to the gym with her, and I just had a sort of fitness program. But the gym just happened to be owned by a woman who was a runner-up Miss Universe twice and a Miss Australia winner, bodybuilder winner, and her husband was in the industry. And at a certain point, when I was 15 or something, he said, "You should consider going in the junior state championship." And I went, "Okay." So I just went in this competition and I won it, you know, and clearly there wasn't a lot of other competition. So it was a sort of a funny little aside in my life, but it was, I'd never won anything before, and so it was kind of exciting and odd, but I think I knew that it wasn't the world that I wanted to continue to stay in. And when I was 18, I got cast on a TV show, and so I would still stay fit, but I left the bodybuilding career behind.
Neighbours, which was huge in Australia. Pretty much every Australian actor has probably been in Neighbours.
Well, there's only, in those days there was only 2 shows being made in Australia. There was Neighbours in Melbourne and Home and Away in Sydney. So pretty much every actor has been on those shows probably numerous times, playing different characters.
So, how did you come to Hollywood? Because this is leading into our next clip package, which happens to be L.A. Confidential with Curtis Hanson and Memento with Christopher Nolan. So,
well, they obviously saw me in Neighbours, and
or maybe the bodybuilding.
Oh, you bodybuilding is what I was going to say.
This is
in that aerobics class.
That's right. This is our guy. Well, I'd done a film in Australia. I mean, I'd finished on the TV show at the end of '89. I was working in theatre again. I was fortunate enough to land a role in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Save your applause. We're getting to that movie. But yes.
And it was off the back of that and coming to promote that film in the States that I then I actually only met with one agent. I was reluctant to meet with anybody, and my agent in Australia said, just meet this one agent. I said, fine, I'll meet one agent. I was really doing my best not to have an American career. And so I met one agent who is here with us tonight, Chris Andrews, who I've been with ever since.
He is here.
And he and I have carved out a career together ever since. And, I started to audition for things in 95. And one of the last auditions that I did in that year was for LA Confidential, which Russell was already cast in at that point. So I just sort of did a general screen test for that. And then I went back to Australia, and then I was asked to go back and do a proper screen test on film, because I think the executives had thought, you've cast one Australian, you now want to cast a second Australian. We need to see some evidence here. And so they put me in front of real film cameras with real actors, and we did some proper scenes, and I was then cast.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. And the late great Curtis Hanson, who's such a great director.
Look, Curtis became a real friend and mentor for me ever since that time. I feel emotional talking about him. He was a very special human, and really a devastating loss when he passed away. He died in 2016, sadly. And, working for him on that film really was like film school for me. It wasn't just director-actor relationship. He taught me about film acting. Not that I learned everything on that film, but I certainly went from 0 to 100 during the course of that film. So it was a very special experience. It was my first American film, as I say, and really, the film itself is obviously kind of legendary now, so it's incredible to be part of it. But yeah, Curtis was a really special character for me to get to know.
Well, let's take a look at it. L.A. Confidential and then Memento. I am going to ask Adrien Brody to turn into critic here and talk about his performance in Memento.
Masterful. I'm not kidding, masterful. I remember I saw that movie in the theaters and was like, that guy is an amazing actor. I mean it.
Well, thank you, my friend.
Did you understand the script when you got it?
I certainly understood the emotional center of it. There was no question that we were following a guy here who was in absolute emotional turmoil, and that there was a real sadness hanging around his neck, and whatever the actions were in whatever order that they were in, which I, after reading the script a number of times, I really got a handle on. And then I worked with Chris in rehearsals for a couple of weeks. So it all sort of, I could understand the whole story as far as the structure of it. But pretty early on, it was clear to me the emotional state that I was looking at as far as an actor goes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an extraordinary movie. That's one of those movies that gets deeper and better every time you see it. You know, that's the mark of a great classic.
Well, and one of the great things, I mean, Chris Nolan is a genius, as we all know. And, you know, this film, as we know, half of it runs forward and half of it runs backwards. And at the end of the movie is the middle of the story. And that the brilliant thing that Chris has done is as you sort of navigate scene 100 to scene 1 to scene 99 to scene 2 to scene 98 to scene 3, etc., and they work their way to the middle, Chris still manages to give us the experience as an audience member of, I suppose, a more traditional trajectory that we might feel when we watch a film. The build up of story, the exposure of certain elements, the resolve, So he's very clever in being able to juggle 50 things at once, Chris. And this was a sort of perfect example of it, because the story was quite simple in a way, and the film was quite simple. There's no real visual effects or anything like that. But it was an incredible experience for me to, the funny thing was, as actors, a lot of the time you're focused on what you're doing at the moment and what you've done before, what leads up to it, and where you're going after this. And so you've got the whole journey in mind. This was one of those ones where I just had to let everything go and just focus on the scene at hand and not even think about what I'd done before or what I'd done after, because it was irrelevant in a way. So it was quite a funny experience in that regard too. I just had too many props to deal with all the time. Cameras and notes and pens and it was a lot. There was a lot going on.
It's amazing. Okay, we've now come to the portion of our show, the game show portion here, and I have a question in our game, and our game is called I Played Houdini. And I want anybody raise your hand who's played Houdini in the audience. Anybody has played Houdini? These two guys have played. I searched high and wide how I could connect you to besides the Brutalist. Looked up IMDb, looked up all these pages on Wikipedia. I could find nothing except Houdini, which you did in Death-Defying Acts in 2007, and you did a miniseries, two-part Houdini in 2014. So I got to know, what's the appeal of Houdini, and did you watch his Houdini before you did it?
No, he was a bodybuilder and I was a magician, and you put the two together,
which
you get an escape
Houdini,
artist.
which Houdini are you going to go for the most? The real magician.
What is it about Houdini that attracted these two great actors here? Tell me, Death-Defying Acts.
Well, I mean, what a character! I mean, Houdini himself was such an astounding character and risk taker, and had sort of so much to prove, and was carrying so much on his shoulders. And I just found him utterly compelling. And the story that we told was kind of a fictionalized story about him looking for the spirit of his mother, and so it really was a love story. So it was a delightful script, and it was with Gillian Armstrong directing, and Catherine Zeta-Jones and Saoirse Ronan were both in the film. So there was a lot to like about it, aside from the fact that it was Harry Houdini. It was just a really intriguing. I did some research, obviously, and looked back into this man's life, and was really fascinated by his whole sort of experience coming from Budapest, coming from Hungary, and trying to make a new life for himself in America as well. So, harking back to some other.
It sounds like Laszlo. You could be describing Laszlo there.
Well, and I was going to say, I idolized Houdini as a boy because I really did love magic, and I always joke that magic was the gateway drug into becoming an actor, because you are given some material, you get a trick, and you have to make it your own, and you kind of come up with a monologue, so to speak, and you have to capture people's attention with it, and it's kind of an illusion, just like film is kind of an illusion. And it's a wonderful thing. And Houdini, for any boy who's infatuated with magic, is someone that is one of the most revered. And interestingly, he too symbolizes this yearning to escape the confines of oppression, the confines of poverty, of being othered, of being not good enough. And the reality is that he was a very much a struggling magician. He is Hungarian, and he worked in the fringe kind of these kind of sideshow of a traveling circus, so to speak. And he ended up getting a job as a locksmith to make a living so that he could carry on his work and everything. And he combined the two and created the term escape artist. And he created something unique that no one else was doing. And ended up becoming one of the most famous vaudeville era performers next to Charlie Chaplin. You know, he was really incredible. So
Yeah.
I think he was the highest paid artist in the world at the time.
I believe that, yeah.
Well, it's amazing. So, you know what? You're going to watch a double feature of their Houdinis, and maybe throw in Tony Curtis in the mix.
Why not? Yeah. I did see that, but when I was much younger. Yes, when I was much younger.
All right. You also have played other real-life characters. Both of you have played many. We're going to watch one of them right now, Woody Allen's brilliant movie, Midnight in Paris, which I love so much. You played Salvador Dali so perfectly. And then another real-life character, King Kong. Don't tell me he was not real. I believe in King Kong. No. King Kong. So we go from Midnight in Paris, Salvador Dali, to King Kong in this clip package. Here we go.
Ah, the good old days.
That was Peter Jackson's King
Peter
Kong.
Jackson. Amazing.
And
Amazing filmmaker.
a brilliant, another, you know, there was both back to back there, Woody Allen and Peter Jackson. You can't go wrong with these filmmakers who turn out stuff. This movie had to be so interesting to you to play this particular character too. He's very complex.
Dali?
No.
Dali? What are you talking about?
Jack.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I loved working with Peter, and I had just so much joy working with that amazing cast. It's funny. Midnight in Paris, I worked one afternoon. One afternoon. We did that scene one afternoon. King Kong, I worked 9 months. And I got to live in New Zealand, and I learned so much about a style of filmmaking that I hadn't experienced before, working with cutting edge technology. The technology evolved during that 9-month period that we actually went back and redid scans and things because new equipment had come into use. And it just was so incredible. And Andy Serkis did such a wonderful job in playing Kong. And we interacted with Andy while we were filming. And he brought so much depth and soul to that character, which it's just really wonderful. So I have it's dear to me, that experience. Yeah.
Do you like doing these big scale movies? Both of you. Let me ask both of you, because you have done them. You did Predator. You did Predators, which is a follow up to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. Which is really an interesting casting choice, considering you're sort of following Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's like bulky.
Yeah, why wasn't I cast in that film?
That would have been. I am thinking the same thing with you. Yeah, he's great in Predators.
I was an amateur bodybuilder, but a professional magician.
Yeah, you bulked up for Predators, didn't you? Yeah,
Did,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And that was an interesting choice to go into
Well,
that.
I find, I mean, the whole beauty of being an actor is to get to do things that are different and to portray characters that are vastly different from ones that you have portrayed, and to step into the shoes of others. Um, and sometimes you have to really push past a subjective sense of what you're right to play. And um, it's very exciting to play things that are very much against type, and yeah, and we have to fight to do that. And I think it's more interesting for an audience, especially if they've seen an actor's work, to see them do something very different. And I love the genre. I grew up, I was cutting school and watching Schwarzenegger in that film in high school. And I loved it. And I would watch it with my friends. And, you know, I never dreamt that I would have an opportunity to portray a character like that. And neither did the studio, for that matter. They offered me the role of a scientist in it. And I advocated for why I feel that I have the sensibilities to represent a mercenary and a character with an intellectual hardness, and bring a level of authenticity to a storytelling rather than just training. And I said, I will train, and I will, and I'm not saying that that's what it was, but to just put someone who's overtly muscular isn't really the answer necessarily. You have to have somebody that is believable in as that character and in that role. And I worked to do that and to carry that responsibility, but also to get yoked so that the guys and the fanboys who love that movie don't feel that it's not appropriately cast. And it was really exciting. It was a really fun
And you
journey.
did it great.
You.
That's another one put on your list. And you worked with Ridley Scott on the second and third in the Alien trilogy here, Prometheus and Alien Covenant. So, yeah, really good.
Well, and I did Iron Man 3, which was also a big
And you did Iron Man 3. So you've been doing those big kind of things. So do you enjoy that?
There's a certain aspect of it that I do enjoy. Absolutely, there's a certain sort of structure to the whole entity that you can get lost in a little bit, I think. You know, my preference probably is to work on things that feel more intimate and smaller, and you know, where there isn't so many people that you're just not even getting to know various people's names. It's quite a big machine to work on a big studio picture, but it's still exciting. It's still great fun, and obviously when it comes down to it, and you're standing there, you know, doing your scenes together with the director there and the cinematographer, then there's no difference in a way, but there's just a whole sort of car park full of, you know, additional crew who on some level you just never get to know, because this thing's enormous and there's visual effects people and stunt teams that go on forever, and so it is a very different experience, but still enjoyable. As long as you believe the role you're playing and you know it's working, then great, you know.
And Ridley Scott, he is a wonder to me. I mean, 86 now, 87, and you know he's off doing his next picture, which you're going to be in, I think.
Apparently so. Yes.
Hey, congrats.
Apparently so. So no, he's a delight, Ridley. I mean, he's so prolific. It's quite amazing, as you point out, for a man of his age. He's really just not slowing down at all. He's really quite sort of historian as well. So getting to talk with him about whatever the project is utterly fascinating. And of course, the you know, to work on Prometheus and Covenant were really exciting, because I was brought up on Alien and, you know, that franchise. So yeah.
A director who made his first feature film at age 41. Just shows, isn't that amazing? I mean, and still going like.
He had a vast commercial
Yeah, he
directing
did a
career
lot of
before that, yeah.
commercials and things, but he did
Amazing.
not make a movie
I didn't
till
know
The
that.
Duelist when he was like 40, 41. So it's pretty remarkable. And here
There's hope.
Certainly,
yeah, exactly.
he's certainly made up for it. He's made about 1,000 movies since then.
I know. He gets so excited by it. I was interviewing him on a Q&A for the Gucci movie, and I said, "What are you doing next?" "Oh, I'm doing Napoleon. I've got," he goes, six battles, you know, and he just gets excited. It's contagious to talk to somebody who's still so energized by this business and what they do, you know, and that's the name of the game. And
A lot of crazy sex scenes.
Yeah. Well,
You didn't see the movie, sorry.
Yeah. My brilliant segues here. Back to Guy. The King's Speech. You played King Edward, another real-life person, King Edward VIII. And I told you, I promise, before we get to talking about The Brutalist, that we would be talking about the adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So, even though that was earlier in your career, we're just all over the place tonight. Here is King's Speech and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Yeah. What kind of memories does that bring back?
It was such an amazing experience. And it's funny because we're all in discussion at the moment about whether we're going to do a sequel or not. So,
Whoa.
So
stop right there. Is this really happening?
Hot off the press. You know, it depends. We're putting together a script and we're talking about what the idea might be and if we all feel that it's worthwhile and you know, then we'll do it. I think Hugo and I and Terence is certainly into it, and Steph and Hugo and I are having lots of chats about what we might do. So we're excited about it, but we won't do it unless it feels right. We don't want to ruin the original one.
I think it's important to do it now for one reason. Drag queens are under assault from politicians and a lot of things going on, not at the time when that picture was made, but now. And that picture had heart and soul, and it had a lot of gravitas beyond just being an entertainment.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why the film worked so well. I mean, it certainly came at a pivotal moment. It was a very popular film, as you know, and it just, you know, coming out of, I mean, we made the film in '93. It came out in '94, and coming off the back of the AIDS epidemic and really the homophobia was just off the charts through that period, and people were starting to speak up. People were starting to feel braver about stepping forward and acknowledging and speaking up about who they are. Priscilla really enabled a voice for a lot of people, which is one of the things that we've been told this past 30 years. So it really... So, you know, it was a fantastic experience, but it's been a very meaningful film for all of us to be part of. And you know, I think the idea of actually sort of following up on it, as I say, is it's sort of a great idea as long as we do something that's valid and valuable and worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I hope it happens. I really
Me too.
do.
I'm going to get my stilettos out again.
It would be interesting. Yeah, you're going to get the heels and the whole thing. And...
Hopefully they can make me some stilettos, because the last time we didn't have the budget and I just had to wear what they had, which were about 3 sizes too small. And running down a road in the middle of Cooper Pedy with those blokes chasing me in high heels was not a lot of fun, to be honest.
Well, you look great. Yeah.
Well, I was a bodybuilder.
You look like a professional.
I don't know if you know that or not, but yeah, that was my...
I know. Okay.
And in fact, that was about 10 years on from that competition. So, you know, had I done the film 10 years prior to that, I would have looked completely inappropriate.
Well...
Muscle memory.
Muscle memory, exactly.
Yes. Okay. The Brutalist. So, I'm just going to show you a clip right now because I got 2 clips. So I'm going to show you a clip and then we're going to discuss this movie. There are so many things. Talk about relevant. I don't think I've seen a movie as relevant to now, even though it's a period film. So here is our first clip from The Brutalist. It's 2 such interesting characters and the dynamic between them. And, you know, the artist, the benefactor, and there's so many complex elements to each character where you don't think you're going to see it. Your character seems a little bit insecure in some ways, so he acts out and he does things you don't expect. Your character looking for America essentially, and all of this seems more comfortable in his skin as an artist. And I thought that comes along as you see this develop in this. Talk about the dynamic between these 2 characters.
Well, I think what you point out is great. It's you know, the interesting sort of position that Van Buren kind of takes or tries to take in life generally is that he is sort of top dog, that he is the one in control, that he is the one who has the power, that he is the one who decides. And I think a lot of that does come from insecurity, from feeling powerless, from feeling like he's not in control. And he's worked his way to seemingly a position in life where he has the, you know, sort of has the dominance. And yet Laszlo comes into his life who he's intuitive enough and has enough taste to recognize his, not only his skill and but also his artistry, etc. But the thing that he really detects in Laszlo is, I believe, a sort of an underlying sense of self-confidence, an ability to see the truth of the world, where my character is, whatever truth he's feeling within himself, he's masking, hiding, being presentational, etc. And so I think the yearning for a man like this, to be a man like this, to perhaps possess a man like this is quite the mirror and quite the turmoil for Van Buren. So he's completely taken by him and he's envious of him, and there's a whole myriad of emotions going on when Laszlo comes into his life. I mean, I'm just speaking from my point of view really here.
It's true. How do you see it?
Well, it's I think it's indicative of the dynamic between the artist and the benefactor, and it's a big motivating force in Brady Corbet and Mona Fastfold, who wrote this beautiful screenplay. Their own experiences as filmmakers and the creative yearnings in an artistic profession and capacity, and the need to sometimes acquiesce and to fight for creative vision. And, you know, grand works like film or like an architectural achievement require backing. And you can be very fortunate and have a wonderful benefactor that honors a creative vision or is at least communicative and aligned in that creative vision. I think the film gets further into how your power is stripped away when working for someone else, and your creative vision is then eroded, and many other profound and relatable yearnings, you know. But I love the dynamic between these 2 characters. It isn't cut and dry. Van Buren's a very mercurial character. I think Guy brings wonderful complexity to his portrayal. It's so eloquent and explosive at times, but very sensitive and And the reality is that no one is free of insecurity. And I know many people who are very successful in myriad ways. And, you know, a lot of them are afflicted with the same insecurities that you or I may possess. And I think the beauty of art and the beauty of being an artist is that you can apply and work past that and apply your passions and struggles into something so meaningfully that you can sometimes surmount all of that. And it's not really quite quenched with other ways that we are led to believe are typically fulfilling. I mean, you know, it's wonderful to make enough money that you're secure and your family is comfortable and you have the needs that you think you're yearning for. But having so much money doesn't necessarily make you more fulfilled. It'll buy freedoms that those who don't have it don't possess. But if you can find fulfillment in life, and I think that is what Laszlo is yearning for and fighting to leave behind something of meaning and leave behind lightness in the face of so much darkness. And I think that's apparent to him because he lives amidst the seduction of all of the darkness. And that's a powerful thing to behold. And then, you know, the beauty of this moment is that Van Buren offers Laszlo a degree of respect for the first time that he's had in many years. He's lived through the concentration camps. He's forcibly separated from his wife. He's been toiling in poverty. And here comes this person with the ability to give him opportunity and who has enough of an intellectual and emotional depth that he can honor what Laszlo is speaking to and yearning to do with his work. And that is such a beautiful moment. So it's just really special. They see each other in that, and it's reciprocated. Yeah.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Both of you. And let me add, in this clip I'm going to show, let me throw in Felicity Jones, nominated for Best Supporting Actress from the film as well. Here is our other clip from The Brutalist. This is a movie that I highly recommend you see in theaters. It's doing really well for a 3.5-hour movie with an intermission. You know, I can't imagine the pitch meeting that Brady Corbet went into. Yeah, I want to make a picture about architecture and these guys in 3.5 hours, and I'm throwing an intermission and shoot it in VistaVision. VistaVision hasn't been used since the early 60s. The giant cameras on their side. Paramount did it as an answer to television. This movie was shot in VistaVision. Guy, what was that like? Because those cameras are super noisy as well.
Well, we could certainly hear them, but I think, you know, because of the beautiful immersive work and script that we were engaged in, I felt like I was able to tune them out. They weren't distracting, to be honest. And the strange turn of events is this is pretty much the only film I've ever done where I've done no ADR.
Wow.
So, I mean, I realize that it's just one frequency that the camera operates on, and you can find that frequency and turn it down. So it's not like a helicopter flying over that ruins your dialogue and you've got to redo the dialogue for that scene. But it was just an incredible irony that, you know, on a movie with this wonderful old piece of noisy equipment, we didn't have to do anything sound-wise
But
you know.
did you feel like you were James Stewart in Vertigo?
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
they made only a few films like Vertigo, White Christmas, One-Eyed Jacks, I think. The last movie ever made in VistaVision was Debbie Reynolds and My Six Loves, which was this frothy comedy that you wouldn't even think would need that.
I felt more like Debbie Reynolds. Yeah. Now you're talking.
That was the other movie.
That was the other movie,
Yeah.
yeah.
Before we give you your awards, just talk to me about the relevance now, as you see it, of this movie for America and maybe the world today, what it has to say.
I think Adrian's better to speak to this than I am. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, you know, this movie was written many years ago, and Brady's spoken about this as well. About, you know, when you set out to make a film, you want the film to speak to things that are meaningful and of relevance. And you know, there was an immigrant crisis then, and you know, I think it speaks to so much. And I think the beauty of film is it is this immersive experience, especially the cinematic experience of like just sitting together in a darkened room and watching these characters' lives unfold. And if you manage to really become immersed in it, and you gain understanding and exposure to circumstances that you do not experience personally, or maybe you know someone and it connects something and it bridges that divide. It's such a beautiful thing. And I feel very privileged to be a part of this movie. I know Guy does as well. And I love that this artistic work can evoke an understanding of the hardships that others face. And, you know, we live in a very complex world and a very complex time. And perhaps it's always been complex, but it feels very complex right now. And to do work that speaks to that and gives a degree of insight into that hardship that is so universal, this feeling of being othered, the feeling of not being quite welcomed no matter what your contribution is, and purely even an artistic yearning that so many of us feel, and is a challenge to live up to, you know, our own hopes and dreams. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to put out into the world, and it is something that we can witness through seeing characters' lives in the past and what they've endured and the lingering traumas that come from those times, and to understand how, as a society and as a community, we have to be less divided and more inclusive.
Great message. Well, yeah, that definitely sums it up. Thank you both for joining us here and talking about your careers, even the stuff you didn't want to talk about. It was great. You're both terrific. I wish you the best of luck at the Oscars. Oh, and I saw that Halle Berry, after you won the Golden Globe, or when you got the nomination for the Oscar, actually, she went on her Instagram to congratulate you. So I don't know if she's presenting again on the Oscars this year.
Love that.
But that was one of the
She's
most
very- yeah, she's so
one of the
sweet.
most
She's been very
famous
sweet.
Oscar acceptance speeches ever, and it was fun that she she did that. So anyway, I wish you the best of luck, no matter who's presenting in your categories, and thank you for joining us. And now, I want to bring back to the stage Roger Durling, who's going to make a presentation here.
Hello there. But before I present the awards, I want to give a big shout out to Pete Hammond. As I mentioned earlier, he's been doing this for 23 years. 23 years ago, the film festival today is celebrating 40 years, but 23 years ago, I was named head of the festival, and I was a newbie, and I was desperate to make this festival happen. And I reached out to Madeline and Pete Hammond to help me out. And Pete has been moderating ever since, every year, come rain, come shine. And Madeline Hammond, his wife, has been moderating the women's panel. And a great part of our success, the film festival, has to do with the Hammonds' support. And I am deeply grateful. And because of that, this Cinema Vanguard Award, starting today onward, will be named the Hammond Cinema Vanguard Award.
Wow. Thank you.
You don't have to say anything. I love the fact that you're speechless. You, Pete Hammond, speechless is priceless. But now about our two honorees that I'm so thrilled to have here tonight. Why were you paired together tonight? Either one of you could have filled up this evening by yourselves. Yet you have me to blame. Both of you are on my list of favorite actors. You both, if I find out one of you is in a film, I will go check it out because I find you both to be the most interesting performers of your generation. When I find out that the two of you together were in The Brutalist, my head exploded. Yeah, fortunately, not literally. It's still here. And the pairing of you lived up to the hype. You're both terrific in this film, and your scenes together are electric. Thank you for being here. I'm a super happy man. The film geek will always remember tonight. Guy Pearce, I became a fan of yours since I saw your work in The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Playing Felicia, the cattiest member of the 3 drag act group who travels through the wilds of Australia. It was a tricky performance who could have easily become camp, but in your hands, Pearce, you excelled. You've always excelled in tricky performances. Kevin Spacey and Russell Crowe and Kim Basinger got all the accolades in LA Confidential, but it's you, Guy Pearce, who handles the most difficult role, and you killed it. You rocked it. And then came Memento. Where you had a tightrope of an act, inhabiting a man who is at once utterly clueless and at the same time so short of himself. You've never played the same type of role. In The Brutalist, you finally get your long-deserved Oscar nomination. Adrien, Brody, similarly, you have taken on such a wide variety of high-risk characters: a punk rocker, a bullfighter, Arthur Miller, Houdini, Salvador Dali, and also navigated a wide variety of genres. And any actor who becomes a member of Wes Anderson's Wes Anderson troupe of actors deserves serious respect. Um, your performances are so committed, so immersive, and now you have two remarkable bookends to your ever expanding career of over 60 films. You have The Pianist and you have The Brutalist. The latter remind us that you're one of our greatest performers. Thank you both. Thank you both for your commitment, your perseverance, your risk taking, and for your continuing to enthrall us cinephiles who love you and root for you guys. We've rooted for you for so long, and we will continue to do so. And we hope that this award is only just an encouragement to continue to enthrall us. So here, Guy and Adrien, you can both come.
Well, thank you very much. This really is a great honor. Thank you, Roger, so much for your kind words. And Pete, beautiful interview. Great to chat. Great to go through the histories of our careers. I think, as I said before, Adrien and I have a pretty mutual respect for each other. And I think together we've been working at this for about 100 years. It's actually 40 years for me too this year. So I stand in lockstep with the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. As I say, this is a great honor. I'm just thankful to have worked with all the people that I've worked with in my career. I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunities that I've had. I only try to get better constantly. I find it just as exciting as I did when I was a kid. The wonderful worlds that we get to sort of enter with our imaginations based on the great scripts that we receive. It's a great testament to all those fantastic writers out there. So I thank all of them, and I thank all of the wonderful directors that I've worked with, and of course all the great actors and all the great crew members who have, shared this experience together. I share this with all of you. So thank you very much.
Congratulations, Guy. Roger, thank you so much for the beautiful, really beautiful words. And I'm incredibly moved by this, and I love Santa Barbara, and thank you to the Santa Barbara community and the International Film Festival. It's really a magical thing. I've just gone down memory lane with you for a while, so it's hard to find the words to express this gratitude, but I have been doing this for so long, and the privilege of still loving this work and to be receiving this level of respect from so many people is a remarkable thing. I would not be on this stage if it wasn't for the eloquent work that Guy Pearce brought to this movie. You're a remarkable human being and an amazing scene partner, and I've been a fan of your work for so many years, and you really lifted up all of us in this film, so thank you. I owe a lot of gratitude to Brady Corbet and Mona Fastfold for writing such a beautiful film, beautiful role, so much complexity. Thank you. And yeah, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. My team is all here in the audience. It's so it's such a sweet night. I have to say, this is such a sweet night. So thank you all for all the love. I've talked your ear off already. Thanks again to the Santa Barbara International Film Festival.